She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis's Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and we have a great guest today. But before we get to him, got to do our ads, got to thank our sponsors. Thank you first to Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with your website. They can help you with your social media. They're experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, to find out where all the Greek entertainment is. We thank them for their support always, and as well as Select Flex is our other sponsor. What is it? It is an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's an insert. You put it in your shoe. Why are these different? Because there is a geometric beam in the arch that the turn of a dial makes the arch either firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. I have these in every pair of shoes. I do not work out with them. If you go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com, there's a 30-second video that shows you how these work. These are the best over-the-counter orthotics you will ever find. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there is a 25% discount. If you type in the code FAMILY, FAMILY 25, you get a 25% discount. Check them out. You need it. Everything starts from the feet, works its way up. It will be great. Your body will thank you. Okay. I'm like a little verklempt because we have a celebrity. That's right. A celebrity. Someone that is absolutely blowing up in radio, political talk. I had the pleasure of meeting him at a Curtis Sliwa event. Still mourning over the fact that Curtis did not win as New York City mayor, but I think Curtis is poised to do a lot of great things. And a lot of people know this man as Mr. Call Screener, which I love that. I love that title because it's very mysterious. And finally, when we got to know who Mr. Call Screener was, we found out that he's a great radio host. Yes, I'm talking about Rich Valdes with an S at the end, not a Z, an S at the end. Welcome, my guest, Rich Valdes.
Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate it.
Mr. Call Screener for the Mark Levin Show. And This Is America is your show on iHeartRadio. And you're doing things for Newsmax. You're producing, you're in back of the mic, you're in front of the mic. You have 2 daughters, you've got 17 businesses. I don't know how you do it, but let's get, I always like to start from everybody's beginning. Okay. So where did you grow up?
Brooklyn, Midwood, Ocean Avenue, Avenue M is where we moved from. We used to live on 26th Street near Marine Park, and moved to Jersey. My parents split up and we ended up in Jersey and Hudson County, which was kind of like the 6th borough, honestly. It was, there were still bodegas. There was a lot of the, the urban feel that you would get in the outer boroughs. So it was cool. I went to high school there, and actually from 6th grade on, I lived in Jersey, and it's great. I love Jersey. It's a cleaner version of New York, and it's got suburbs. It's affordable, and here I am.
So what was your journey? How did you wind up in radio? Because first of all, it is an incredibly hard road. And it's the type of thing where you can only get good at it if you do it, but like, who's going to let you do it? And then winding up on Mark Levin's radio show, which I listened to, we listen to, my husband and I, in this house. We know when it's 6 o'clock. It really is a religion. I mean, first of all, it's a great time slot because 6 p.m., for the most part, either you're home or you're in your car. He's on from 6 to 9. He's incredible, constitutional lawyer. He's a superstar in the certainly, I'll say, the conservative party, and you've done all of these things. How did you get there? How did you get from Jersey to? Yeah,
I'll start with saying they don't call him the Great One for nothing, right? It's a name that he's earned, and it's a pleasure to work with him and learn from him. My journey, I mean, it's, I have ADD, right? So I'm always looking to do something new. I'm always in another place. I'm sure you do too. That's what makes you good at what you do.
I'm in ADD denial, but I think I do have it. Yeah,
I was in denial for a while too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I left off, we were in Jersey. So in Jersey, I went to high school in Jersey, Hudson County, North Bergen, New Jersey, was where I went to high school. So in high school, I was poor. We grew up poor. I'm still very much poor, not as poor as I used to be though. And when I was in high school, I remember I had hair, and my buddies and I, we used to like, getting designs carved in the side of our hair and getting these really tight buzz cuts, faded up. And there weren't a lot of barbershops in the area that you could get one. You could maybe go to Jersey City and get one, maybe to Patterson, but both of those were a hike from where we were in the West New York, North Bergen area. So the easiest way was to get into Manhattan. The West Village was really where it was the hot spot to get a really cool haircut, but it's expensive, and we used to go. And one day I was like, being frugal, I was like, I think I can do this. So I got myself a pair of clippers and I started messing around on my buddy's head and the other one and this one and on myself. And I got okay at it. So it became a little thing that I did with just my friends in high school. I was 14 years old. By the time I was 16, a buddy of mine was in a printing class in high school. And as a joke, he makes flyers for a printing class that he was doing, but he put my real phone number on it. And he said, if you want a haircut, call this guy. Right. So all of a sudden a business was born. I had, I don't know, 10 or 15, well, maybe not 10 or 15 at first, maybe 5 to 10 people every day. And it grew to about 10 or 15 people a day, every day after school, sitting on my couch, waiting for me to do my magic with the clippers. And I took it in stride because I was like, whatever, you want to do that? No problem. Give me $4. And it became a thing. And I was actually making a good amount of money. So my brother, by the time I was in my junior year of high school, he tells me, I think you should really get into this. I ignored it. Senior year comes around and he says, hey, there's a guy that's got a drug problem. He's hooked on crack cocaine and he has a beauty salon. It's up the block from the house. And I said, oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. He says, no, I'm going to buy out his lease and the equipment in the place. And you're going to go in there, instead of cutting hair in your house in the bathroom, you're going to cut hair in that place. And I was like, I think I have to go to like school for this and all that, and he was like, figure it out. I was like, oh, okay. So this is my big brother, Lou. And I said, hey, thank you, Lou. So I did this. And I did tell him, disclaimer, I'm going to waste your money. I'm a teenager and I'm crazy and it's not going to work. But he said, no, I think you got something here. I turned it into a business. It was a very successful business. I was able to open another business from that. And it was great. And that's really how I got my communication skills. I learned how to speak with people. I got, you have to learn how to be funny. You have to learn how to be a lot of things when people are waiting hours upon end for a haircut because you're the cool guy at that moment that was like, I want to get a haircut with that guy. So I was very fortunate, really blessed that way. I had a great business. And after that was Fat Fades Barbershop, PHAT, which was the buzzword back in the late 90s. So that went well. I actually got out of high school a year early, and not like I skipped a grade. I dropped out and transferred to night school so that I could go to school during the day to become a barber and work in the business at night. So I did that and graduated at night the following year in 97, should have graduated in 96. And it worked well. I went into business for myself and I was very cocky, very arrogant. And I was making a bunch of money as a young guy. And I thought, I don't need this. I don't need that. And then life catches up to you. You end up, you settle down. I got married. I decided, I probably should go to college because I skipped college because I was making a good living. And went to college and I realized there's a lot of things out there. And I studied communications and business at NYU. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I like communications. Maybe I should do PR or something like that. And but it was always an idea and never a reality. So I worked in sales for a Fortune 10 company and I did that for a while. And eventually through business, I got more involved in local politics. And, just kind of like you're the business owners, come to the business owners roundtable, very, very innocuous type of stuff. Wasn't very partisan. And I was an avid churchgoer, very, very active in my local church. So I was always kind of center right just because of the way I was brought up. I just didn't believe that abortion was right. I didn't believe that we should, that the government should take the place of the church. I thought it was the church's job to be charitable, the church's job to reach out to the community, not the government's. And that any type of charity or communal service shouldn't be done in the name of communism, but should be done in the name of charity. And these were just innate things that I learned growing up in a very Hispanic area and what my parents taught me. So you fast forward a little bit. And I got more involved in politics. I really liked it. I worked on the Bush 2004 reelection campaign. I was out in New Hampshire. And after that, I was like, man, I love this stuff. I love campaigns. This is very, very cool. That was actually the first time I met Rudy Giuliani. Was on the trail in New Hampshire.
I'm sorry, can I ask you, so cool. What year was this around?
That's around 2003 or 2004, going into that reelection.
And I ask that just because I feel like at that time and before, when you got into politics and when you got behind a candidate, you can actually have a somewhat of a conversation with somebody that maybe is supporting the other candidate.
Sure.
I mean, now it is visceral. Now politics, there were some things I wanted to do for our local election here in New York City that I was afraid, because one, being a comic and trying to get work, and like now people ostracize you for getting behind somebody. So your timing was good, but I feel like you just, thank gosh, because you just missed the mark of like,
there's two sides to that coin, and I'll explain. Mm-hmm. So, I got into it, and yes, you're right, 100% that at that time you could, but at that time was also the same time that it was changing, where it was like, we're not going to have a discussion over policy or politics. We're going to fight, right? Women in my brother's office in that 2004 reelection between Kerry and Bush were literally having, a hair pulling cat fight in a real estate office. I just, at the time I was like, wow. Anyway. So, that was what was happening. I really enjoyed politics. I did an internship for Congressman Scott Garrett in New Jersey's 5th District. At the time, he was the most conservative member of Congress. And after that, working with my local chair in Hudson County for the GOP, Jose Arango, I did a run for the New Jersey State Assembly. I got crushed, but I had such a good time fighting and punching up in this election. It was a hugely popular candidate that I ran against. And I realized I really like this stuff. It's a lot of fun. I worked in higher ed at the time doing marketing and sales, and then eventually management and communications management, PR management. And I did that for a while, but I was always involved extracurricularly in politics and whatnot. So when Governor Chris Christie, or I should say U.S. Attorney Christie, was running for governor in New Jersey, at first they said, hey, can you help out the campaign with maybe higher ed issues or something like that? And I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. And then when he won, they said, we're looking for people that can help with the governor's office of Hispanic affairs. And I thought, how cool is that? But it didn't really pay a lot. I was married. I had 2 kids. I was paying New Jersey property taxes. So I needed a little bit more money. So I didn't take it, but they didn't give up on me. And they offered me a different job in the administration, which I eventually took, and worked in the administration for a couple of years. And it was really cool. I worked down in the state capitol in New Jersey. I learned a lot about the swamp and how the swamp works and how government works and how politics works and how people stick the knife in your back and they'll do anything they can. So a lot of the things we're seeing now, I saw at a very minuscule state level back then, because they wouldn't like fire you per se because you were appointed by the governor. And, he had that ability to appoint people, but they would make your life impossible, like changing, your travel class so that you have to pay more to do your actual work, or let you go for a while with it and then hit you with a bill. And one day they sent me a bill for $5,000 and said, oh, we made a mistake. You owe us $5,000. I mean, the things that they do, switching you from one office to another, it was really not cool. And I realized I could never, ever work in the swamp. I could never, ever depend on my livelihood on the government. I got to do my own thing. And having, owned and operated a barbershop for a bunch of years, that was already kind of in my DNA. So I said, all right, no problem. I'm not going to do this. I like to talk. I've had some connections. I love politics. How can I talk about politics? And the first opportunity I got was writing a column for the Washington Times in the community section, which was at that time a joint partnership with Community's Digital News. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot to learn, but I was learning. And from there, after my work with the Christie administration, I got my brother put me on to an opportunity with Project Veritas. James O'Keefe was looking for somebody to run his national organization, and somebody that had a background in media and as well as in administration and management. So I had a conversation with him, and he said, all right, cool, let's give it a shot. And they expanded my role in the time that I was there. And it was really cool. And I learned a lot, being the director of special operations for Project Veritas. We did a lot of great work. It was really, really cool stuff. But I realized that wasn't my angle. I enjoyed, the behind the scenes producer type of thing, but I also really enjoyed telling the story. And I had a chance to do both, but I'm sure there was more. So I eventually went back into higher ed and ran this PR stuff. And that it was there where they started using me more for on-air stuff. They said, maybe you could become our pitch guy and pitch the commercials for the school on the radio and do these little live streams for the college, to get more people involved and interested. And I really loved it. Very few people have the type of sordid love affair that I do with my own voice. So I said, all right, great. I get to be a narcissist and they'll pay me for it. Super. So I enjoyed that. And, through networking and looking around, when after in the process, my parents had died. And I was like, man, I stayed as a caregiver to my dad for a couple of years. So I was out of the game. And when I was getting back into it, I said, I have a chance to really do whatever I want because my parents are gone. My kids are a little bit bigger. What do I do? And I had gotten divorced in between. So it was just so many new endeavors. And I said, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice and see if I could do what I've always wanted to do, which is work in broadcasting. And I met with Mr. Producer, and he was looking for somebody that was not a radio guy, or at least not a radio producer, but that was very politically savvy, and to make sure that we could pick the best calls to go on with Mark and some other production work. And he liked me. I liked him. I thought it was a great opportunity. It became a match made in heaven, and I've been there ever since. And it's been such a great thing. He thought, man, you talk so much for a guy that works in a control room. We have to get you your own show. So they first we started off with the podcast, This Is America, and that was through Cumulus Media and WABC in New York. And then that was sold off. And then I branched off over the summertime, signing a deal with Yay Networks for sales, and they do distribution through the iHeart platform. And it's been great. So, I'm going on my 4th year with This Is America. I've been doing radio in Philly and in New York, and of course nationally when I get to fill in for the great one. And that's been like the pinnacle of everything. Going on Mark's show and people telling me that they actually enjoyed it. Because, when you listen to a big show like that, or somebody with such a huge following, whether it be El Rushbo, Hannity, Levin, people, when there's a guest host, they may be the best guest host in the world, but they're not that guy, and people are tuning in for that guy. So it's really tough in that position. Like my show, people like my show because they're looking for me. But when you're looking for Mark and you get me, it's like But let me tell you, I've gotten some great compliments.
You are great. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You are great. I listen. I do not turn off. And you know what, Mark? Yes, Mark is Mark. Of course, we're all individuals, but I'm not putting myself in that category. But Mark Levin would not have you on unless he did not think that you can do what needs to be done for his audience. And his audience is very sophisticated. They're very dedicated. Look, I would sit here and go, oh, liberals don't know. I know a lot of liberals that are very smart. And you know what? Sure. It's very frustrating. That like, come to our side, please. Why do you think that way? You're a smart person. But his audience is very well read. It's not just a sort of drive-by morning show, hot topics. It's not like that at all. He gets really into the details, and I've learned a lot. So for you to be on that show, and I have listened to you the entire 3 hours, and 3 hours, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that is a long time on radio. You have no idea. And again, the content is very, very specific. You do a great job. I am very impressed. I am so grateful you are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I thank you for the invitation. And I want to say, I'm really thankful that I'm good at something, because there's so many things I'm bad at. I'm so bad at parking my car, opening my mail on time. I'm so bad at regular life that I'm glad I know how to speak well.
Okay, listen.
Sometimes.
Okay, you want to talk about a failure? Okay, I am a failure. Okay, don't outfail me. Okay, don't think that you're going to outlousy me. All right, I can't cook. I can't clean. I can't. I barely have a comedy career. I'm a podcast because I hired myself. I just like I'm a waitress on Mrs. Maisel, but I don't have any speaking lines. So I'm telling you right now, 20 years, and so don't say that. But
I don't think you should sell yourself short. I saw some of those YouTube clips. You're pretty funny.
Oh gosh, I just I'm
and a conservative comic. Not easy at all.
So let's talk about that. So really, your journey, I love it. Thank you for explaining all that to us, because I didn't know the meat and potatoes, and I got a little bit of you every time I listened to you, but to hear all that, you definitely turned lemons into lemonade, and you used your gifts, but you're a hustler too. I love the work ethic.
You got to grind. There's no other way.
And I'm not saying there are a lot of people that are hard workers, but I feel like the generation coming up, their mindset is different. The work ethic is different. The entitlement and what they expect is different. So the fact that you're very young, you've got your daughters, you're, teaching them that, that same work ethic. And so, I'm Greek, you're Hispanic. I feel like there's something about,
like we're cousins.
Right. It's Italians. Just that ethnicity, we're also fluent in our language. And I'm Greek Orthodox. I'm assuming you're Catholic.
Yeah, evangelical Christian.
Evangelical Christian. It's a very big part of our lives. It goes hand in hand.
Sure. I was brought up Catholic and going to church. And I mean, my most vivid memories were not of the catechism or any of that. Was my mother staring at me with the death stare and smacking me in my arm, say, "Shut up, kid. Not now. The priest is talking." Right. And I was like, "Oh my God, no." But it teaches you reverence. And you're like, this must be really important that her favorite chubby cheeked little kid is getting a beating for talking.
Well, I hate to say this, but I say too many people don't beat their kids enough. I mean, I'm just saying, just from some of the stuff that I've heard. I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm just saying kids don't seem to have, and I realize I'm generalizing. Not everybody's like this, but fear. We had boundaries, and that's what, by the way, I feel religion, certainly Christianity and Judaism, teaches you. It teaches you boundaries. Like, you and I did crazy stuff when we were younger, but we knew there was a line. We just maybe we got to the edge, but we never went over the line. Now,
and I knew to never embarrass my parents. If I got caught doing something, I had to come up with something. So this wouldn't be, no, my name, John Smith, you can't tell my parents. They could never know this would be the end of the world.
Absolutely. And to them, everybody would know about it. So you can't embarrass them. It's a reflection on them. Let's talk about being a conservative, Republican to the right. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I call it just trying to be a human being, just trying to be a good person. That's what I say. It's not hard to be a good person. I don't think it's that difficult. I'm not saying
I
you're
struggle.
perfect. What?
I struggle.
Well, no, you know what I'm saying, just a good human being, and, work, take care of yourself, abide by the laws. I mean, I don't understand. I feel we've gone, my Greek grandmother used to say, the peoples are going crazy. Like, everybody's losing their minds. I don't know what's happening. So you're very plugged in with your shows and current events and what's going on. I mean, between the pandemics, the lawlessness, everything else, just, trying to bring it up to right now and what's going on. I mean, how do you see what's happening? I mean, is the tide going to turn? Because I feel like as a country, as humanity, I feel like we've lost it. When I'm sitting there, so I'm older than you are, and I see the looting. Okay. I had flashbacks of when I saw this when I was a kid on TV. I can't believe I've grown up in New York City. I've lived here the majority of my life, except for high school. I can't believe what I'm seeing, but it's happening all over the country. People are making excuses. It's the pandemic. No, they're robbing, they're stealing. I mean, I know I just threw a whole lot at you, but where are you seeing what's happening? I mean,
Well, again, looking at the big picture goes right back to my mother in the church pew. Mm-hmm. When you learn to have a healthy fear for, stopping and doing what's right at the right time, you learn a lot in life. And I think that's where virtue has become lost. I think we're living in a godless, secular society. We've replaced God with science. We've replaced, and when I talk about God, what do we talk about? Not killing people, not stealing, right? I mean, all these universal truths that we learn through the 10 Commandments. that are being literally replaced. People are saying, no, you should steal. You're stealing because there's a pandemic. You're stealing a screen TV because you're hungry. He's got to feed his family. So he's got to raid and loot Target. These things are insane. And if we get stuck at looking at the micro, we don't see the macro. And the macro is we're losing virtue. The founders talked about this so much, and so much of the text you look at it says, you need virtue in society, a virtuous society. We don't have a virtuous society. We have a society where, and some may want to blame the church, others may, either way, I think that's the answer. Some sort of revival, more people focused on morality and spirituality would stop a lot of this. When the job of charity becomes the job of the government, there's nowhere to go but communism, because they're going to have to take from the rich to make sure that you don't have homelessness. That's just how they do it. That's how they see it. So it's incumbent upon us to be charitable, to make sure we do, love God, love people, take care of your fellow man. And that, I think, is what is lost upon us. There aren't orphanages anymore. If you have a kid and you don't want him, he becomes a property of the state, a ward of the state. Orphans don't exist. There's very few private orphanages. And again, they were run by churches, and the whole dynamic has changed, where I don't want my kid, I'm going to leave him on the footsteps of the orphanage, which belonged to the church, and some nun would come out. Now it's, I don't want my kid, I'm going to give it to a fire department or a police department, and the government is going to take over. This is the problem. We put such a reliance on government. And I think both from abdicating our responsibility to our own society, but also there's been a huge movement of those that sympathize with communism afoot since the 1900s. And every day they want the government to be your daddy. They want the government to pay your bills, to be what holds you up and props you up in society.
But do you really think that let's just focus on America, do you really think that most people feel that way now? Most of the leaders in this country, certainly in the big cities, are totally touting that, we'll take care of you. We've got this program. We've just opened up this department. Look at, I would just give an example, and I've talked about this on my podcast, and it just blows my mind, because in my former life, I was a CPA and an auditor. And Bill de Blasio gave his wife $860 million. I can't say that number enough. It's probably more, if that's just what they say in public. And we have more homeless, and these people really, they're whether they're ill, they've got such horrific mental issues. They're all over. I went to Jersey yesterday. I went to Penn Station. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And each time I go is more and more. It's getting worse. So there's no accountability. There's no audit. There's no financial statements. There's no what happened to the money. With $860 million, you can go to the outskirts of Queens and build a state-of-the-art facility and get these people all the needs that they need. I'm not saying you're going to do it 100%, but even 50% would be better. So we have people like Bill de Blasio, Lightfoot in Chicago, the White House. I listen to Jen Psaki, half Greek. By the way, she's half Greek, which really makes me. Yeah, Opa, my butt. She's so nasty. This woman is so nasty, and she's cutting people off, and the press can't question the president, and we can't. There's no accountability. I don't know who's running the place. It really feels like the Wild West, and I am really, really scared. I love the city, but I'm not quite sure how much longer we can really live here. It's crazy. You pay so much for so little. We got bike lanes. People are outside smoking pot. That's okay. When I mention this, I get from the other side, but no, they're not driving. They're not this. Why not? It's always, people that got caught with a nickel bag went to jail. I'm not saying put people like that in jail. That's always the excuse, But so now we go to the other extreme. So now you can just walk outside, walk past a baby carriage, smoke a joint, have all the pot smoke, let the baby in it. That's okay. It is really insane. And I don't know what's happening. And the thing is that the people that are in charge are doing this as well. So,
it's a society with no virtue.
How can we change any of this?
Not to do too many free plugs of Marx's book, but I think he really, really nails it with that. When you look at how Marxists work, and it really is a fascinating concept, because They truly kind of like, I will make this comparison, like an Islamist suicide bomber, where they think, I'm going to do this in the name of Allah. I'm going to do this because I'm doing something good for my God by doing this. They've replaced their God on the left, the godless left, with leftism, and they use Marxism as their mechanism to get there. So when Psaki is rude and nasty, she's doing her job, because her job's not only just to defend Biden and spin, that's part of it, but the larger part of it is we have to make sure that we remain the ruling class so that we can fix the problem, get all the homeless into New York. Once they're there, we'll push these people out of hotels that they own, and we'll let the homeless live in all these nice luxury buildings. We'll have homeless in Park Avenue. This is how they think, because that's what's fair. That's what's equitable to the Marxist.
But again, the numbers don't lie. They go, it's an exact science. Science is not exact. Numbers are exact. And it doesn't make any sense. If people that have money move out of these big cities, there will be, and businesses move out. And, New York City, very much a big part of it is finance, banking and finance and Wall Street. If that tax revenue isn't here, if tourists aren't coming to these cities, how do you think any of this is going to get supported? It's going to look like one big slum. This is what you want to live in. And some of these people, like the Obamas of the world, that have made and the Bill Gateses that have made so much money, and some of them have made money on the government dime. And I love how Mark Levin and you also point that out, how some of these people, like a Chuck Schumer, never did anything in their lives other than be on the government dole. And by the way, everybody, they work for us. We're the employer, they are the employee, but it's turned into a kingdom. But the numbers don't lie. None of this makes sense. All the spending doesn't make sense. I don't mind the spending. I don't mind being taxed, but at least spend the money in the right way. And we know it's not going in the right way. And I don't know how, again, I don't know how we turn it around. And you're on the campaign trail. I mean, the media also, they've hijacked. They've hijacked anybody that's Republican, conservative, anything right leaning. I'm actually tired of the categories. I wish almost we could just sweep away the categories and be like, this is how I feel, because once you start labeling it, then they start to attack, and it's insane. It's insane.
Ellen, you mentioned two things. You said they're chasing away the rich people and they're chasing away businesses. That's exactly the job of a communist. They don't want rich people because they believe pay your fair share. We have to stop you from being rich so we can take your money and redistribute it. We don't want businesses because we, the government, own everything. We own the means of production belongs to the people, the common union. This is the whole idea of communism. So, this is exactly what they want. They're getting their way. And so the more rich people that leave and go to Florida where there's no taxes and whatever, they're just going to work on ways to figure out, all right, well, let's figure out how to stop that. Not from leaving New York, stop going to Florida and Texas, or maybe even Tennessee, because they're going to say, you know what, these states should not be able to have no state income tax. We're going to force them, using the massive central government that we have, to force them to do what we want them to do. And this is what they've done every step of the way, just like Vladimir Lenin and every other major, Mao Zedong. They've used the power of government, the iron fist of government, to get their way over the people. And when you go to the most destitute people, what we see now in a housing project, if you give them a regular check, what now they're calling universal basic income, you become some sort of hero, because you're like, man, I went from being broke to having a little bit of money, even though you're still broke. And it's just classic Marxism 101. It's working like a charm the way they're doing it, because they continue to perpetuate and make these poorly educated, poorly located areas where they don't have access to a lot of things. And then they'll blame it on white supremacy, when it's oftentimes politicians of color within the Democrat Party that are actually doing the harm to these very populations.
So how do you think, and I know this is a big question, but so how do you think we can turn this around to at least move the needle a little bit?
We do exactly what they did. They are dedicated. Listen, my kids, I've told them, you can do whatever you want when you grow up. Whatever you want to do, I'm supportive of. That's not necessarily the case in people that are government dependent. People that have worked for 25 and 30 years and said, I'm retiring from a state job or a city job, I'm getting a pension. I might be getting 2 pensions, or a pension and a deferred compensation, or a pension and a 401k. These people are retiring with way more money than anybody in the private sector for the most part. And, unless you're a CPA or a lawyer and you're in that upper echelon. But, somebody making 60 grand a year working as some sort of administrator is making 87 in the government. So, I mean, they clearly get paid more. And what do you think they do to their kids? They go, hey, listen, go to school, study this, get indoctrinated. And then once you're ready, I'll get you in. I can get you a job. You get the benefits, you get the pension, you get and it becomes a perpetuating cycle. So they're now training activists to be high paid activists. Now, on our side, you've got guys like me that are struggling to make it in radio. So it's a matter of perspective. But until we fight the way they fight, and again, I look back at my time in government, and if I knew then what I knew now, I probably would have sucked it up and stayed in government just to be that agent of change on the inside, because I think that's the only way you do it. Now, people push back on me when I say that, and they go, nah, you got to bring it all down and rebuild it. That's crazy. That's like saying, my wife, I don't like the way she does this. We're going to kill her. No, you don't destroy the things you love, right? You work through them. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. So I think we as the conservative liberty movement, we need to be involved in the media. We need to be involved in government. We need to be involved in the classroom at the kindergarten level, at the elementary level, the high school level, the university level. This is where it's happening, and newsrooms across the country. The more conservatives you have, which is why I love what's happening with Newsmax and OAN and all these other places that say, you know what, I dare to have a free thought, because that's so important. And I think the more that we dedicate to the areas that are needed, to me, I look at them like fires. There's fires burning in different places. So if you see the media is on fire, start shooting some water at it and don't ignore it, and get in and fight. Because if you're not in the ring, you can't take a swing. You can't connect a shot. You can't do anything if you just say, I'm done.
So we got to get involved somehow, some way.
Yeah, look at what happened. Look at Vicky Palladino ran for city council. Yeah. Ina Vernikov ran for city council. Newly elected Councilman Carr. All of these people ran, and they're in. So now they're going to be in the city council next year. Why? Because they fought like hell.
Yeah, it's good. It's not enough, but it's good. But it's a start.
You said move the needle. The needle's moved.
Yeah, no.
And another 3 and another 300. And that's my point. The problem that we face all too often is that people analyze from their own perspective. And I'm not faulting them, but this is a heavy lift. And we tend to want other people to do the heavy lifting for us. So they'll say things like, oh, but you're on the radio, you're on TV, or you have a comedy platform. You've got to tell your audience. And I'm thinking, the only reason I have an audience today is because I decided to start one a while back. And I've been fortunate along the way, and people with bigger audiences have allowed me to be introduced to those audiences. But you have to build. You have to build, and people have to take this action. Something I said on my show recently, and again, I don't know how popular it's going to be, but I said, you have to pretend like you're in this fight by yourself. There's no backup. Nobody's coming to help you. So when you say, you know what the Republicans in Washington need to do? No, ma'am. No, sir. You need to do that. You need to do. What did Donald Trump do? I like to call him Donaldus Magnus, El Trompito. What did he do? He moved from Fifth Avenue to a huge, beautiful building with his name on it. And he was pretty comfortable in that nice golden palace of his. And what did he do? He said, I'm going to go live in the White House. I'm going to get beat up. They're going to question my kids. They're going to interrogate my kids. They're going to trash us in the media. They're going to lie and say mean things about me. Made his life a living hell. He took his supermodel wife and he went to the swamp. If you can be in that good of a situation and do that, any one of us can do it with our school board, with a state assembly seat, with a city council seat, whatever it is. It does come with sacrifice. You will get canceled. You will lose friends. You will lose money. It may cost you your pension. You may have to sell your house. Lots of things will happen. But if we don't sacrifice, this is an ideological Cold War. And maybe I'm a radical for thinking that way, but I really do believe this is an ideological Cold War. And the last time we were in this much trouble was Pearl Harbor. But that was a hot war. They were bombing things, right? Kamikazes were flying into Hawaii. Right now, the kamikazes are coming through our TVs every single day, And we're sitting there going, I don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I do? And let me tell you, George Washington never said, oh, what should I do? And you know who else doesn't say it? AOC. AOC's never said, oh, geez, I wonder what I should do. She knows exactly what she's going to do because she's a trained Marxist and she sticks to her guns. So as I call her all out crazy, AOC all out crazy. But let me tell you, she doesn't ever flinch. She knows exactly what her job is. She doesn't say, oh my God, but it's getting so bad. What are we going to do? That whining and that uncertainty and that pussification of society has to stop. It has to stop now. We have to fight. We have to get in the trenches and do what we got to do.
They have all the great soldiers. They had the AOC, that whole squad. And then I'm like, why does she get so much publicity? She had no experience whatsoever. She's young, and I'm not going to, they go, oh, the bartender. Listen, she went to go make a living. I'm not going to fault her for that. She just has no experience. She graduated Boston College. Okay, what does that mean? But she knows how to talk. It's all like a word salad. The whole thing, the squad, they're crazy, these women. They're nuts, but they're like superstars.
They fight every day.
Every day, and they get a great platform, and they don't go any place. Like they would never go on your show.
I've invited her a bunch of times.
They would never go on Mark Levin. I would love to see these people at least to have a really honest debate. And it's
not about honest debate. This is about pushing one
Control.
side of the story.
Control.
And that's exactly my point. We know that, so now we have to disrupt that, whether it's creating our own media, building our own audience, fighting them in their audience whenever we get the chance. And that's my point, is we just can't miss. I mean, there's not if you look at her Twitter, and all of them are the same, they're lockstep. Now, we don't believe in groupthink. So again, they use everything that we espouse as independent thinkers and individualists. They say, man, oh, those suckers, they'll never lock arm in arm and be together on one issue. So they use that to their benefit, and they continue to divide and conquer us. But once you get educated and you realize that's how a Marxist works and that's how the attack looks, you have to get wise to it and say, all right, you know what? I know exactly what they're going to do. We study the tapes. We know what the tactics are. Now we have to go and do our part.
I can't even wrap my head around the way that they think. I try to be empathetic. I can't. I just can't. And people go out and they vote for them. I mean, good people go out and they vote. And it just blows my mind. Like, are you listening to what this woman is saying? It is against everything. They just want to be rich. They want the kingdom. And we're just the mere peasants. It's incredible. And now with the pandemic, that's thrown a whole different wrench. I have to tell you, I'm a very suspicious person. That whole thing with the virus, where it came from, it stinks to high heaven. I think it was contrived. I definitely think it was man-made. There's no accident in my book. I don't care what anybody says. And it was man-made, and it was just everything in the script is going their way. And it's scary. It's totally scary. And they're using it. And people have died. I mean, the virus is a real thing. It's not made up. Things have happened. Horrible things have happened. People have gotten sick. They also hijacked the whole thing with the vaccine. And if you're a Republican, you're not getting a vaccine. That's why we have a virus. Who said that? I know plenty of people on the right that got the vaccine. I mean, who says that? It's lies, these lies, and people are believing them. And it's upsetting. Like, what? Immigrants, they call you a racist. You're Hispanic. I'm Greek. Like, don't call me a racist.
White supremacist.
I can't. My grandparents all came. Ellis Island. Our name is on the wall. Don't give me that. My grandfather was a waiter. My grandmother was a seamstress. Get out of my face. I can't. I just can't, Rich. I'm all right. I'm losing it. All right, let's get back to
so many of those people left Europe because they were escaping fascism.
Exactly. All right, I got three very quick things. One, sure. I need to ask you, what is Mark Levin like off air?
He's terrific. Thank me. Yeah, no, Mark is on the air as he is off the air. No difference. Oh,
okay. So no real switch in personality.
No. He's very authentic.
He's smart. He's seasoned. Obviously, he's got many years of experience. Please, if you get a second, tell him that there's a a little Greek woman that is a huge fan, a little Greek woman married to a big Jewish man, and we are huge fans, and we have all of his books, and we listen to him at 6 o'clock. It's like a religion. And I'm glad that you're there, and I'm happy for you that he gave you that platform. Have to ask you also, you said you're divorced. Listen, you're a handsome guy.
Thank you. It's my hair.
You're a handsome guy. You got a great career. Are you single? Because
single like a dollar bill.
And you're funny. So I'm going to find you a girl. Okay, I'm going to find you a girl. Does she have to be Hispanic, or can we go?
I'm not a racist.
You got it. Okay, good. All right, I might have some Greek women for you. Okay, good. So, and then what do you do for fun? What do you do? Because this is very intense all the time. Like, what do you do to chillax and take it back a few notches?
I didn't choose this type of work because it doesn't make me more money than I could have made being politically neutral. I could have made more money somewhere else. It's cost me money, but I choose this work because I like this stuff. I like going to conservative political events and functions and schmoozing, and so I really am doing what I love to do, so I'll never have to work a day in my life. So this is what I do for fun. Normally I get paid to talk. So I've been on with you for an hour. Nobody's paying me, but I get to hear the sound of my own voice. I love the conversation, right? This is truly what I love to do is do broadcasting. It truly is a passion of mine. But yeah, I mean, I love meeting new people and helping other people get to where they got to go if I can help. I by no means am some sort of Sherpa, but I think, a lot of times people say, hey, I haven't been through what you've been through yet. And if you can give me some tips on something, and I love to meet people and see people get very politically active. I love a lot of these younger groups that are coming up right now, and they're fighting. They fight way harder than me. I look at me and I'm like, man, these guys fight, and it's so inspiring to see that next generation. Cause like I said, I have kids. I have two daughters, one's 16, one's 20. And they've got to live in this world. And, up until recently, there were two teenagers, and that wasn't easy. And it's not going to be easy once they're adults and they're in their 30s. It's going to be harder than it was for me in my 30s. So I feel like, there's a dad part of me that's like, I've got to look out for my own kids by way of looking out for all of America as best as I can. And no savior syndrome here. I don't think I can do anything alone, but I think I got to do what I got to do right here, like in my own space. As far as my punch reaches, I got to keep swinging.
Give us all of your media, times, Instagrams, Twitters, all of that. Give us everything.
Super easy. I made them all the same because I forget stuff and I have ADD. It's at Rich Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes with an S at the end. And you can get at Rich Valdes on all the social media at richvaldes.com. You can find me pretty much anywhere. I think you might even find me with the Z, but I'm not going to go that far.
I can talk to you all day. I know you're on a tight schedule. What do you do? By the way, you do stuff with Newsmax. What are you doing with Newsmax?
Yeah, I do weekly a weekly commentary on a couple of different shows there, giving my take on the news that's going on. I joined a different show this week, John Tobacco's show. It's called Wise Guys. It's actually a pretty cool show. They shoot it in a restaurant. So it's like you're sitting around a table and it's got this wise guy theme on Staten Island. But it was really good. We talked about a lot of the breaking news topics that are coming on. But that's my angle. I'm just always giving my opinion one way or another, try to be entertaining and informative. It's not always easy to be funny, as you probably have learned as a comedian, and actually bring something of substance at the same time. So that's the balance that I always try to do, because this stuff gets boring if you don't crack a joke every now and again. And I just try to become better at what I do, because this is really, while I love it, it's really hard. It's really hard to just, like you said, it's not just the time. I mean, I think Rush Limbaugh, when he was dying, mentioned, it's kind of difficult to, project for 3 hours. It really is to really dig deep and know the material. And Hannity has this idea of, you prepare 3 hours for every 1 hour that you're on live. And I've used this formula. So that's a good part of my off-air time, is studying and getting ready and trying to be prepared to be on air, which includes, I think, both reading and making sure your mouth works.
It's very hard. Also, the hesitation, making it sound clear, keeping an audience, and you really do. You don't miss a beat. I mean,
thank you.
I've listened to you.
But that's the producer in me, and I study this stuff. And I'm like, If I get into a story that's too long in a segment that's like 11 minutes, by 8 minutes, they're going to be like, you're killing me. So I got to put some audio in there, then come back and bring a new reaction. And this is something I want to share with you specifically. As a stand-up comic, I think that's one of the hardest things. I've never done it, but I look at it as a craft. And I think that's got to be one of the hardest things ever, because you have, I don't know, maybe it's 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 11, 12, whoever. I've seen guys go an hour. Eddie Murphy can rock a mic for 2 hours. It's amazing, because that's not radio. There's no break and there's no producer. There's nothing in his ear. So I think, when you can do that type of thing, or even Seinfeld, these guys are just, to me, remarkable. So I've always had so much admiration, honestly, for the stand-up comic, because it's such a tough gig. And when they let it down, and I've seen a couple let the guard down. I saw this really insightful interview with Eddie Murphy and Seinfeld, where they were asked by Joy Reid, nonetheless, but they were asked, what would you do if you weren't a stand-up comic? And they both looked at each other with this incredible look of incredulousness. And they both said, have no idea, not good at anything else. I totally relate to that, because I don't know what I would do. I mean, people say, you should be a lawyer. You like to argue. I'm like, I could not imagine reading all those books. I read a lot of books, but stuff I like to read. I can't imagine reading like a brief after brief after brief. So, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for professionals that are committed. And the stand-up comic, I think, really, you got to nail it. And Steve Harvey, I've heard him give a story about how he came up and he had that one shot at the Apollo, and he, struggled to get there. And I thought, amazing story watching big comics fail because they got nervous or they got booed or whatever it was, and actually make it. So I think it's one of those things where you just keep honing the craft and hoping that you get better at it. Right?
Well, I mean, thank you for admiring stand-up comedy and still respecting it. It is the most intimate art form, because it's just you, the mic, and the audience. It takes a very, 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 very long time to find your voice. I've been doing this for 20 years. And
I hope you found it.
And I don't know what I don't know what
your videos look good.
My husband's like, when are you going to find a paycheck? Okay. When are you going to find direct deposit? Okay. So, I mean, he loves me and all, but the love ultimately stops at paying the bills. So I mean, I hear you. Those guys started very young. They knew right out of the gate and all. For me, mine was a little different, because I started out a CPA accountant. I have an MBA in finance. I worked on Wall Street, but I really wanted to be a performer. And then, I took a lot of classes. I gave it up to do stand-up comedy because obviously I hate money. But just for me, though, half my brain works as an accountant and half of it works as stand-up comic. So basically, I'm only at 50% capacity at each. So nothing really works in its entirety. It's not a good look. I'm just telling you right now.
It's funny.
But it's pathetic is what it is. I know Mark has written, what has he written? 15 books. I finally started my first book, something nice. I know about how to reach sub-parity, because that is all I really know is just mediocrity and, but below it. So it's, being a stand-up comic is a very hard gig, and I'm not trying to throw the woman card out there. It really is much harder than women. It's 1963 for women. I'm not kidding. And ask any female stand-up comic. There's a lot of female stand-up comics, and you don't know about them because a lot of the guys, get the work. I mean, like the handful, the Chelsea Handlers, the Amy Schumers and whatnot. It is hard. My gigs run from comedy clubs are actually not as much to a lot of private stuff. So corporates, birthday parties. I got a little niche in the Greek community, and you have to be your own boss. And but what you said about how you are about radio, this has to be a passion, or else you need therapy ASAP, because it's too hard. It's too hard. And on one hand, the way when those guys started, I don't want to say it was easier, but it was the road was a little straighter. There were more.
They said it was easier. In that interview. They actually, it was really fascinating. And not to cut you off, but I thought this blew me away, because I thought, like, in today's world, you can kind of bypass talk radio if you want to not come up in this industry and just create a killer podcast where you make $1 million a year. That's happening. And there's people that are doing it, and people are doing with comedy and YouTube videos and all that stuff. So I thought, it would be easier now given the advent of technology. But both Seinfeld and Murphy agreed that it was way easier back then because coast to coast, there was about 1,000 comics that worked every room in the country. And they agreed now there's probably about 100,000 comics that are fighting for those same amount of rooms. It's not like there's more comedy clubs. You know, there's still only one Caroline's and one Comedy Cellar and whatnot. So I think it was a really interesting point because radio's kind of like this. Not like there's a bunch more AM talk radio stations that are conservative popping up. You know, it's hard to get on the radio. So I understood it from that perspective. And I agree. Tough gig to get into.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, please promise me that you'll come back and we can do this. We can do this again. I really
we'll do it next Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Feliz Navidad.
Yes.
And follow Rich on his Instagram, Twitter, listen to iHeartRadio, his show. Please, please, please. Fantastic. I'm telling you right now, you'll thank me. And then maybe, hopefully you have a book in you. And
I've got something I've written down. We'll see if I actually go through with it.
Well, and then if you ever want to give a crack at stand-up comedy, please let me know.
They'll have fun laughing at me.
No, that's
not with me.
You can open for me. I don't know. We'll maybe
I might take you up on that.
Might find something for you. I'd love to do more conservative comedy. It's very hard to, get that, but we need conservatives need good PR to show that they're even funnier. Okay. So
amen.
So there you go. Thank you everybody for joining. Hang on, Rich. I'm Ellen Karis, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Greek Comic, Ellen Karis, Facebook, Greek Goddess of Comedy, my website, ellenkaris.com. For this podcast and all of the others, we thank Rich, we thank all of you. It's a holiday season. Enjoy, everybody. Live in the moment. Be a good person. God bless. Until next time, bye.